All right, everybody, thank you once again for joining us for another RSMP Kill Team video. I'm joined by Rob today, and right now we are at 5-Star Games in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Feel free, check on out 5-Star. We're gonna have their Discord and their website in the description below. They have an absolutely insane selection of Kill Team and 40K stuff here, as well as pretty much anything else for your hobby needs. So feel free to check them out. And one other note before we jump into our Battleclade Kill Team review here, they do monthly 40K RTTs, as well as starting some game days for 40K, and a Kill Team scene is sprouting up here as well. So some of us from RSMP will be around here. We're gonna be looking at tournaments, game days, scheduling TBD, but that'll be coming up soon. Okay, so to get started with the Battleclade Kill Team, at long last, with this box, we got the first official Tyrannid Kill Team, and then we, excluding Hunterclade, got our first official AdMech team as well. And Rob, I know I've told you a couple times already, and because I can't stop thinking about it, when I was not a huge AdMech fan, even up until like last year, mostly because like if I was to play with big 40K, it's just spindly bits and hard to put together, and like I'm good, and expensive, you know?
Not to mention that weird stilt guy.
Oh yeah, we can ignore the stilt guy, that's fine. But this team actually played exactly like the game that kind of brought me into the AdMech side of things, which is the Warhammer 40K Mechanicus game. I believe it's just on PC right now, maybe on consoles, I'm not too sure. But it's pretty much XCOM, but in Warhammer. So if you're a big fan of like strategy games and stuff, that's what really made me fall in love with AdMech. And I was like, oh, these guys are really cool. And I was super excited when I saw this, because I saw that we get not 1, but 2 tech priests, and then 8 servitors in this kill team. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to be just like the game. So I'm going to be able to throw action points all around. And this did not disappoint in the slightest. As I've read over the rules a bit this week, it has been kind of crazy. I think this will be either like a really good team that's super good at setting up like kill boxes for your opponents to walk into, or if you're not a great player, such as myself, you may struggle a little bit to kind of get used to like the bubbles and like the different stratagems and stuff here. But yeah, no, I think this will be a super fun kill team, especially if you want something a little bit more rules crunchy. But to get started, so we have 10 operatives. This is actually the tech priest that comes within Blackstone Fortress. So this is actually getting packaged into this box. So instead of buying this thing separately at like 35 bucks or whatever, it's just right in the Battleclade box, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, and it's also really cool. It's the Techno Archaeologist. And actually, just as a side note before we fully jump in, I will be butchering a lot of these names because that is my only nitpick with this kill team, is that nothing is easy to remember when you're going over. Like, I can remember, oh, I have a strat that does this. I'm not going to tell you the name.
Noospheric.
Noospheric Possession, which actually, I'll talk about that one later. But yeah, so you have that, and then you also have an Underseer, which is another kind of tech priest. He looks like a mini Belisarius Call, kind of. And then you have 8 various servitors, which is, I'm very much looking forward to getting into these guys. But yeah, so first things first, the faction rule for this is called the Noospheric Network. Just kind of like a TLDR on that is any servitor operative will be able to essentially transfer an APL to get a free counteract, like automatically, on another servitor operative. So let's say if you shoot with like your Meltagun servitor and the other servitor is like visible to you, you can then transfer your second APL to that next servitor, and let's say it's your arc rifle guy, you can then have that arc rifle guy automatically shoot.
Yeah,
it is really cool.
Any activation has a chance to be a couple activations at the same time, and just like fire all the guns, and it can be very, very interesting.
Yeah, and kind of like how we talked with Ravener Kill Team, how they're very flexible. There's like the mind game, but you can be very adaptive with the tunnel and stuff. I think these guys also leave like a lot of margin for like fixing your mistakes. Because you can't move. That's kind of like the one thing that you can't really do with this, with the Noospheric Network thing, is that you pretty much got to stay in place, but you could do a fight action, you could do a shoot action, stuff like that, which, like, that's pretty solid, Yeah. Because one thing you could do, this is just one of the kill box ideas that I had, right? Like, imagine you have kind of like a you've pincered somebody, right, with 2 firing lines, and because you don't want to get in melee with this team, but we'll go over the profiles here in a minute. But you could have, once again, your Meltagunner that's close up on, let's say, a Ravener, right? You could have them unload with their 1 APL, assuming they're in range and not dead yet. And then you could transfer that APL to your Arc Rifle Gunner, and you could just fire in on them. But then, after that, once it goes back to your turn again, you could activate the Arc Rifle guy again, and then have another round of shooting.
Yeah.
So this, I think, will have a lot of big potential to be a very shooty team. I don't think we're going to get like, because just off of like the stat blocks, you're not going to get any insane shooting like you would with some of the other teams. But I think, especially with like the counteract followed by the activation, will be a huge game changer for like how this game can be played.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think like it's sort of a bubble mentality, right? Like you've got these little bubbles of threats, and if you position really well, you can really unload the shooting and just make the most out of it. But you have to position, right? It's sort of it reminds me of Brood Brothers a little bit. They're kind of a bubble heavy team as well. There's a couple guys that you want to surround them with other guys. And once you do that, they're just unstoppable blobs of death. And it's amazing.
Yeah, I really think that these guys are going to be super fun to play. Now, again, we're not going to be reading off the stat cards just like one, like word for word here, but there's kind of like three, so there's like 2.5 leader operatives, I would say, because you have the Techno-Archaeologist, who actually has some decent shooting. It's in a range 8, 1 inch devastating 3, lethal 5 gun. So it's the Eradication Pistol. It seems like it's going to be decent for like close range shooting, not too bad. He also gives himself a free, basically like a free action. It can't be like a shoot or a fight action, but generally speaking, you do a mission action, you could do a reposition, a fallback, anything like that, and you could do that as a strategic gambit once a turn, which is really good. So this guy will just be really good for also kind of like handing out buffs. One of his things is he gets to use the Omni Scanner action, which will effectively, if you have a visible enemy to you, you could throw this token on him, and then anybody that's firing into him will get ceaseless. So that's a really good way and I don't think it really goes away either. So yeah, it doesn't say to take it off, so I think it's just you get ceaseless if you tag an enemy unit with it, which is pretty sweet. So he's going to be great for buffing your shooting units, which there is a lot. And then you'll also have the Servitor Underseer. So this is actually kind of like, I think like when you build this entire team, he's kind of promoted as like the lesser leader of the two, but I think he unlocks so much potential for this team here.
He's the archaeologist, techno-archaeologist is the brains, but the underseer is the heart.
Yes, yeah, I like that, thank you. So, yeah, the Underseer, again, has some okay shooting. He has a radium pistol, nothing crazy. And I'll just kind of segue here real quick before you go into his abilities. This is a perfect example of why you don't do melee with this team unless you absolutely have to. I'm talking like it is your only operative left and the enemy operative has like 2 health. That is the only situation where I could see you actually wanting to do melee. With there's one operative in here that's okay at melee, and that's about it. The Battleclade Servitor Underseer, Data Spikes. That's his melee weapon. 3 attacks, hitting on 5s, 2/3 damage.
Yep, yeah, it reminds me of my Corsairs without power weapons. They're just, nah.
It's basically fists. That's kind of, you're slapping it with like a wet napkin. You're really not doing anything there. But he has 2 really great actions that I think are going to be kind of key to playing around with this team here. So there is the Nospheric Spur, which is 1 action point, and sorry about that. So he has 2 really unique actions that I think will be extremely important to how you actually wind up playing this team in practice. So first is the Nospheric Spur. It is just 1 action point. You can do it once per turn. It is a support ability, which is great. So I'll talk about the comms device coming up soon here, because that's going to be like a game changer for this team, I think. So anybody within 6 inches of the Underseer or within the auto proxy servitor, which is pretty much, he's the proxy for this guy, and will be able to get a free dash action. So even though we've talked about how they're a little bit slower, and like deployment may be a little bit tricky with these guys, I think being able to get these free dashes, because there's a couple other opportunities in here that we could talk about as well, free positioning is going to be insane.
Yeah, it does wonders to sort of balance out the general 5-inch move that most of the servitors have. Now all of a sudden it's an 8-inch move.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so this will be a very bubbly team, especially I think keeping the auto proxy servitor and the Underseer alive are going to be kind of that's like your core team right there that you need. The Underseer also has 1 more ability I just want to go over real quick. That's the Network Override. He could do the transfer power and the network counteract for 1 action point. So even though he's not a servitor, he could still throw throw an AP to another servitor there. So he's a really solid unit. You're going to want to keep him around.
Yeah, he's going to be the key piece, I think. And I mean, he's going to be the center of a bubble for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think the best bet for the Underseer, to be honest with you, you either need to put him or the auto proxy servitor somewhere, probably like close to your home field objective, and then pair them with a comms device. And because that 6-inch bubble suddenly turns to a 9-inch bubble, And then you can also have, you know, whichever one you choose to not be in your home field objective, you could have them wandering on the field with just like a bucket of servitors that they're just constantly giving buffs to. So I think it'll be really nice. And then one other thing, in that I'll be going bird's eye view for the rest of the operatives here. For the auto proxy servitor, he actually has okay melee. He has lethal 5 and shock, 4 attacks, 4 hits. Hitting on 4s, and then 3/4 damage. So not terrible, you know, it's okay.
Doing a pinch.
Yeah. So whenever pretty much whenever you have a visible enemy operative with the auto proxy, you can give the person that's shooting at them saturate. So he ignores cover. I know this is a little bit bad for your Raveners.
Oh, yeah, no.
And then on top of that, he has an action point, an action he could do here for 1 AP, and he can give someone that is shooting at an enemy operative Seek Light.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I think that was, because I was very nervous looking at the matchup between the Raveners and the Battleclade. Then I saw this guy and I was like, oh, there's ways to cancel out that cover that we just talked about will be imperative to keeping those Raveners.
Yeah, I mean, something like Tunnel Lurkers, where I'm using a strategy ploy to get cover from my tunnel. All of a sudden, Seek Light cancels that out. Saturate then covers the, you know, it's just, they're just out in the open, like they should be, like they actually are, but now, yeah, just melt them away.
Now as far as team composition, I think you're just gonna kind of take it like as it comes. You can technically take more of the combat servitors here, which wouldn't, I mean, I could see maybe a game plan where you'd want to take like 3 of the flamer weapons. You could do that. But generally, I think you're probably going to want to take the 3 combat servitors, take 1 of the flamers, take 1 of the meltaguns, and 1 of the phosphorus blasters. The phosphor blaster is pretty much one of your main long-range weapons that you could take here. Everything else is like range 6 on these guys. You're definitely going to want to take 2 of the gun servitors, standard heavy bolter profile on 1,
Love
and
that
then
profile.
Oh, it's so cool. And then I think honestly the heavy arc rifle here is going to be it's going to be incredible.
Not only is it one of the coolest looking AdMech weapons, it also like just the rules for it are amazing.
Yeah, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/6 damage. I mean, it's heavy dash only, but that's not terrible, especially if you're able to use other actions to get like the free dash, you know. Piercing 1 and then stun.
And stun.
With with those 5 attacks, you have a pretty decent chance of hitting stun on that.
And stun especially hits Raveners hard because those 3 APL guys going down to 2 APLs, like they need that to be able to burrow and pop around and stuff like that. Like that's a serious weapon. That's great against them.
And then one of the things that we talked about before filming here, which I'm really excited for, is the Breacher Servitor. So I believe is it Imperial Navy Breachers are the only other team that have this rule?
Commandos have it as well.
Oh, Commandos.
I bet the Wrecker Crew might, but the Commandos definitely do.
Oh, okay. So I don't play an Orc team, unfortunately. Got to get on that. But the Breacher Servitor, he does exactly what he says. He has the breach action. So he could basically turn any piece of terrain that is 1 inch thick. Can't be any more than that, so you can't chew through like a beta decima, pylon or whatever. But if you're trying to go through walls, he can just make it accessible. So it's just like an open doorway that your team can then walk through, which is incredible.
So powerful and into the dark, and great for Vulcus because all of a sudden you don't have to spend an extra 2 inches to climb that wall. Or 4 inches, depending on what part of the stronghold it is. You're just going right through.
Yeah. So I mean, for a team that mostly has 5-inch movement, 6 for the Tech Priest, I think these guys can be pretty quick.
If you're smart.
If you're smart enough.
You got to think a little bit ahead of time, but it's super rewarding to do that.
And then the last guy is the Technomedic Servitor. Once again, we were talking about this beforehand. Some insane healing potential here. So when someone is about to die, if they're within 3 inches of the medic here, they could essentially do a free dash. They stay alive on 1, and they basically just need to move as close as possible to the medic. And then this is a very important rules distinction here. You cannot actually proceed to heal them on that turn, but this is more of like a end of a turn thing. So like you might want to save the medic for, try to plan if your guys are going to die, try to have it happen near the end of the turn. Because when you get to the next turn, the medic can do a D3+3 heal. Yeah,
which is on par with the best healing in the game.
For sure.
There's very few teams that have D3+3, and that is just a beautiful profile. I mean, 6 heals on a team with 8 wounds. All of a sudden you're injured and almost dead. Like a fist will destroy you, and now you're back up to full.
Right back, yeah. I think especially like the staying alive on 1 thing is a huge help. Yeah. I think that's going to be kind of like a game changer for, like if you can play that correctly, you can keep those really important like heavy gun servitors alive way longer than they should.
And it's super useful for things like it can't, not only that, like you can't be killed that turn either. So if you've got, say, a sniper on vantage on the other side of the terrain, first shot kills the guy. Oh, he's back up from the medic rule. You can't kill him on that second shot either, which is really interesting.
Can you not? I didn't realize.
Most medic abilities, you're not, like, they can't die during that activation. So like even if you shoot them again, they're still going to be stuck down on one.
Wow.
The next activation they can die.
Oh, next activation. Okay.
Yeah, but if you, in the case you're facing elites, shooting twice, that first time kills them, the second one can't kill them. They got to shoot somebody else.
Well, that's actually very good. Because one thing that I've noticed, because I think I generally actually prefer to play horde teams, much to my I'm going like 0-7 these past few games. It's not been great. But one thing that I think is really great about like, again, like I prefer to play horde teams. So like that time when you were playing legionnaires, I was playing Kroot, your bolt pistols were shredding me. This is some extra survivability that I think these guys kind of needed to just kind of get the leg up on some of the other horde teams here. Yeah, so real quick, I just wanted to go over, I actually don't think there's too much that is considered like an auto take for these guys. To be honest, I don't usually recommend auto taking any of like the universal equipment, but I think that comms device with just setting that up with either the underseer or the auto proxy, I think that's an auto take every single
You
game.
have so many crucial support keyworded abilities that thing adding 3 inches is amazing.
Yeah, and again, especially with being able to, and again, you don't need to be visible to throw an AP at somebody. So you could just yeet it at them from 9 inches away. You don't need to be visible. So you could be hiding behind a wall and giving it to a guy that's like out in the middle of the field.
Gotta love that Wi-Fi.
I think it's going to be a very interesting team to see how they interact. Realistically, I think one of the best strategy plays that I think you're probably going to be taking pretty much every turn is going to be New Spheric Possession. Again, don't expect me to remember the names, but effectively, if you're within 6 of either the Underseer or the Auto Proxy, you get accurate 1 on all your ranged weapons.
And it's also support keyworded, so 9 inches with that comms device.
True, yes. Yeah, as far as the other strategy ploys, I don't think there's anything here that you exactly need. I think it's okay. I think there's a lot of okay ones. They have actually one of the better and more well-balanced options for damage mitigation. And it's mostly because it doesn't sound broken when I read this out loud. So it's when an attack dice inflicts damage of 3 or more on a friendly Battleclade operative, roll 1d6 on a 5-up, subtract 1 for that inflicted damage. So it's not just like a permanent like just a scratch or something like that. Like you need to at least get that 5-up for it.
Yeah, I mean it's a strategy play, so that's every time that happens during that turn. So use that turn 2, turn 3 when you're starting to get up a little further. That'll save you probably a servitor turn almost if they're shooting a lot.
Yeah, and I mean I think that could be really crucial. I mean we're talking 8 wound operatives here for the majority of the team, and I mean even with your Raveners there, they have 4 or 5 damage on almost all their melee. Yeah. Which is, I mean, you get 2 hits on there, they're dead anyway. Yeah. But I mean, this is any attack dice, so I mean that's range, that's melee, so like you could do some pretty heavy lifting on that one. Yeah. I like that. One piece of faction equipment that I really want to talk about here is the concealed apparatus. This is what I was telling you about. It's essentially like a swap teleport you could do with all of your servitors. So basically how it works, if they do not use their weapon on turn 1, if they don't use any of their actions on the data card, and if the medic hasn't used his Mechano Suture Array, which is the one where it's the dash that leaves people alive on 1, if any of the operatives haven't used that yet, you can move any of the servitors with each other, so you can like swap them. So one thing to keep in note is that the gun servitors can only swap with gun servitors, but other than that, every other servitor can swap with each other. So I could definitely see some shenanigans here, because again, like turn 1, it really is just kind of like the hide and seek round. Generally speaking, there's not too much that really happens as far as damage being dealt to people. So I think this is very possible to use. My thing is that with a bigger kind of like brain load team like this, where you got to worry about the bubbles, there's a lot of strategy plays that are kind of like a little bit niche here. I think this equipment option will be very useful once you actually learn the team more, and especially if you're like more of like a high skill player. I could see some insane strategies happening with this.
Yeah, you're not going to rewrite the battlefield layout with this, but you're going to be able to really like take a wounded guy off the front line, replace him with one of the guys that was sort of in the back in the reserves, and be able to just like shore up your lines to be able to take whatever's coming on the next turn.
Yeah, and one other faction equipment that I really like here, I'm just going to kind of like, we'll just kind of gloss over some of these. This one I think is really great. Again, with the 5-inch move here, I think this is like again, almost an auto take. It's the covert guises. So you roll a d3 during when you're selecting the equipment option here, and then that many operatives. Let's say you roll 3, you get to move 3 operatives. They basically get a free 3-inch move. As long as it's within 3 inches of your drop zone, that's going to be a lot of extra movement that you can get turn 1.
And the Brood Brothers has the same exact strategy, and I use it every single time. It's absolutely wonderful. I always roll a 1 and only end up moving 1 guy, but still, moving 1 guy is better than moving none.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. And again, I think that there's a lot of like the universal equipment probably wouldn't come into too much use, I think, with this team. Again, like I think the comms device is the auto take. I think the rest is just kind of like okay.
Yeah, depending on who you fight, right? Like
Yeah.
if you want to get up to vantage with one of your heavy guys, grab a ladder for Volkis. If you need to, if there's not a lot of cover because it's a custom board, some light barricades may be good to just help your staging. But yeah.
Yeah, like I think they'll be able to benefit from the universal equipment for sure. I think the comms device is kind of the auto take here, and I think their other ones are also really good. Like the electromagnetic capacitors gives all of their melee weapons shock, and whenever they are retaliating, they get shock and severe. So even though it's a weak profile on paper here, I think that you can get like you can get some decent damage off of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Severe is so good to just balance out that damage, be able to get a little more crit.
I think the important thing too is that, again, I still think even with that, you're not going to want to charge into people. I just think what that does is when you're retaliating, especially because these guys are going to want to get charged by melee teams, and they will be pretty quickly, I feel like. So this will just give them just a little bit of extra survivability. Maybe you could take down an enemy operative like right after they get attacked here. And there is a couple firefight ploys that I do really like. So there's the system exorcism here. It shuts off any of like the debuffs that they have. So a poison token, they can throw it out the window. If it's a like a -1 AP thing, they can toss it. It's really good. And then there's also going to be remote access, which will actually kind of my favorite part about this. The tech, it's only for the tech priests, and it basically lets you do like a mission action, even if you're 4 inches away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's
super clutch.
It's really nice. So you can't use it if that objective is being controlled by being contested by an enemy. But still, I think that's really great just to get like a little bit of extra flexibility with these guys.
Yeah, in a team where the positioning is important, you got to make sure that you're in cover. Like that extra 4 inches can make a huge difference between turning on an objective or leaving it for your enemy to do that.
Yeah. Well, again, especially with this being kill team, we're rocking a pretty small board. Like a 4-inch grab there is not bad. I really like that. Yeah. And I think that's about it. Oh, they also have autopheric supplication, which just ignores piercing.
Good syntax.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, so they can ignore piercing.
That's great.
Which
yeah.
is
Being able to turn that off. I mean, piercing isn't something that's ubiquitous, right? But every team kind of has 1 or 2 guys with a little bit of piercing, and to be able to deny that piece is amazing.
Yeah, and again, I think especially for a team like this where, you're talking 8 wounds, with a 4-up save on most of these guys, you do need to keep these guys alive, and I just think that they gave us just enough tools, because I think if they gave us more ways to save these guys from dying,
it
might be too good. Yeah. But I think now, I think they seem like a fairly well-balanced team, but I also think that they have a very high skill ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Right, like the bubble management, but that's the most rewarding thing, right? Kill Team has so much. It has a lot of breaths. There's all kinds of different teams that play, but then if you really stick with a team and go deep, it's super rewarding.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be sticking with these guys for a while. Obviously, haven't played them yet, but we'll get there. Yeah. Only other thing that I just wanted to touch on was the TAC ops before we wrap up here. They get recon and infiltration.
Oh, I love recon.
Yeah. So I think all of the recon things are going to be pretty easy for them to score some pretty good points on.
Yeah, I mean with 10 models, plant beacons is super easy.
You can just chill in your back line. It'll be nice. I'm really looking forward. I think plant beacons is going to be one of the better options for these guys for sure. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I think this is going to be a really fun team. I'm really excited to get them on the table. And yeah, we finally got a cool AdMech team.
Yeah, well, and the miniatures are beautiful. If you want to paint grimdark and just go grungy and nasty and body horror, there is no better miniature set to buy than this for that. And just, it's so great ripe for conversions. Just taking anything from any other army and just smashing big claw arms or giant guns, or just ruining their heads and just making them awesome.
Yeah,
it's
actually,
so much fun.
One thing I was going to do, instead of actually building the auto proxy servitor, a friend of mine got me it was the Warhammer Plus like mini of the year. It's the Inquisitor with like the servitor in the back. He has like a speaker thing like attached to his head, and I was like, yeah, that's the auto proxy. I'm going to use that. Again, because I think he's kind of like the third wheel of this tricycle that you need to make this team work. You know?
And you can use that other body and make your own custom comms array.
Exactly.
Because if you're going to be bringing that every
cool,
turn,
you're right.
make it just like a sort of a mechanicum
Yeah,
guy.
just make him sit on the crate. Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got. I'm super pumped for this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I love it. I feel like these two teams offer very interesting and new takes on what the teams could be for Kill Team in very interesting ways. I love the fact that Raveners are only 5 guys but play very different from Elites. I love that there's more bubble action because that's the most fun and rewarding part of Hordes, I think, which is why I love Brood Brothers. I love playing and like really thinking all that stuff out. I think it's awesome additions to the team, and I can't wait to see what's coming up next in the new, every yearly release.
Yeah, it'll be a brand new season. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to fight them on the next Battle Report or this channel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm very excited though. So yeah, everybody, thank you very much. Once again, thank you to 5-Star for hosting us today. Once again, feel free to check out their Discord and their website. That's going to be linked in the comments here. There's going to be plenty of 40K stuff coming up here, as well as some Kill Team action happening at 5-Star as well in the near future. So yeah, everybody, thank you very much. See you next time.